Hello Disparers, welcome back to another informative video and thanks for watching. In this video, we shall be taking a deep dive into passports and looking at why some passports are more powerful than others. But before we dive into the video, if you're new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. We all know what a passport is, but for those who don't, a passport is an official document issued by the government certifying the holder's identity and citizenship and entitling them to travel under its protection to and from foreign countries. As anyone who has ever traveled will be aware, not all passports are the same when it comes to the ease with which you can make your way around the globe. For those who are citizens of nations with strong passports, getting through border control in most countries requires little more than the flash of a travel document, or at worst the payment of a visa on arrival fee. For others, meanwhile, such freedoms are granted only in a handful of countries. Every country has its unique passport, but there are some passports that are more powerful than others. The strength of a passport is determined by the degree of travel freedom it gives its citizens to travel around the world without visas, with the strongest giving its holders the freedom to travel to more countries and the weakest giving its citizens lesser travel options. As of 2020, Japan, Singapore, South Korea, and Germany have the most powerful passports in the world, giving its citizens the freedom to travel to almost all the countries on earth without visa or visa upon arrival. On the other hand, Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, and Somalia have the worst passports on earth, giving its citizens travel freedom to less than 30 countries without visas. The big question is why? What makes a passport more valuable than others? Before we dive into our bone of contention, let's look at the meaning of visa-free and visa upon arrival. Visa-free, as the name suggests, simply means passport holders are granted access to their destination countries without having to apply for and present a visa upon entry. Meanwhile, visa on arrival requires travelers to present themselves to a visa or immigration desk on arrival in their destination country and apply, if required, pay for a visa, which is then usually stamped or pasted into the passport on the spot. This process is normally a formality and nowhere near as arduous and time-consuming as a standard pre-travel visa application process. There are four main factors which determine the strength of a passport. There are the levels of development, diplomatic treaties, economic and political stability, and number of visitors. Now, let's begin. Development. How developed a country is directly affects the strength of its passport. Most people think of a developed country as one with skyscrapers and beautiful roads. Yes, those are important, but development does not limit to buildings. Now you might be asking, a country can be considered a developed country when it is technologically advanced with good systems, has modern infrastructures, and good standard of living. Developed countries are determined by the Human Development Index. Human Development Index is quantified by looking at a country's human development, such as healthcare, education, standard of living, and life expectancy. HDI is set on a scale that ranges from 0 to 1, with 4 different classifications. Countries that score from 0 to 0.55 have low development. Countries with 0.55 up to 0.70 have medium human development. Countries that range from 0.70 to 0.80 have high human development, and very high human development ranges from 0.80 to 1.0. European countries, Australia, North American countries, and few other countries in Asia, South America, and Africa such as Japan, South Korea, Brazil, Singapore, Seychelles, and Mauritius rank very high on the Human Development Index with a score of more than 0.80. These countries have some of the best infrastructure in the world, such as healthcare, education, and transport, and as a result, they have very powerful passports. Diplomatic treaties and relations. Much like in business, in the world of passports, it's not what you know, but who you know. Many countries around the world have treaties and agreements in place with each other that allow citizens of those countries to travel freely between signatories. The most obvious example of this is the EU, which lets passport holders have visa-free travel between all 28 of its member states. But that's not all. By virtue of being an EU passport holder, citizens are also granted visa-free and visa-on-arrival travel to many more countries around the world. While worldwide entry requirements differ between each member state, all EU passports fall into the most highly ranked group, and it's a position well worth being in because according to the UN World Tourism Organization, UNWTO, last year around 61% of the world's population had to get a visa before traveling internationally. 6% could apply for an electronic visa, pre-travel approval completed online, and 15% could apply for a visa on arrival. Only 18% of the world's population enjoyed visa-free traveling. EU passport holders, of course, extend outside of Europe as well. In return for allowing its citizens hassle-free entry, the EU grants reciprocity to a host of other countries such as Australia, Brazil, Malaysia, and South Korea. This essentially means that citizens from those nations can also travel to and within the EU, thus extending the reach of many more of the world's passports. A great example of this type of agreement is the Commonwealth, made up of 54 countries including the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and many other smaller nations such as Fiji, Dominica, Grenada, and not only are passport holders of many Commonwealth countries afforded visa-free and visa-on-arrival travel between other member states, but by virtue of being a member, they are granted easier access to many other countries as well. A prime example of this is a country like Antigua and Barbuda and Seychelles, a small island nation that, thanks to its membership in the Commonwealth, can offer its passport holders visa-free and visa-on-arrival access to over 130 countries worldwide. Trade links. If a country wishes to readily trade with others across the world, it must be willing to open its borders to foreign citizens. After all, it's incredibly difficult to arrange meetings and broker deals if each visit requires a months-long visa application process. A perfect example of this is the Schengen area in Europe. Comprising of 26 countries, Schengen allows for free movement, trade and travel across country borders for EU passport holders. A study published in the World Economy Journal confirmed what has been clear since its introduction in 1995. It has been a contributing factor behind the EU becoming the world's largest economy with the most powerful passports. On the flip side, a study published in the Applied Geography Journal in 2011 examined the effect of visa restrictions on trade and found out that, by raising the cost of travel and deterring some visitors, visa restrictions hamper personal contact across borders, which is detrimental to trade and foreign investment. The paper goes on to estimate that if just one of the trading partners imposes a visa restriction on citizens of the other nation, with no reciprocal restriction in place, bilateral trade can fall by almost 20%. Economic and political stability. It is no coincidence that 7 of the world's top 10 economies, US, UK, Japan, Germany, France, Italy, and Canada, all rank within the top 10 strongest passports, affording holders visa-free entry to over 170 other nations. Essentially, many countries are willing to allow entry more readily to passport holders of economically strong nations, as the logic flows, rightly or wrongly, that those travelers will contribute to and stimulate the economy in some way when they are in the country. Be it through business or tourism, countries with very high per capita income tend to have powerful passports than countries with low per capita income. There are some countries with high GDPs but very low per capita income, either due to overpopulation, and as a result such countries have low GDPs and weak passports. Nigeria and Philippines are typical examples. A nation's global economic standing also affords its passport holders greater visa-free access to the rest of the world, as citizens of those nations are considered less likely to breach travel conditions or not return freely to their country of origin. This is where political stability comes in as well. Very few of the nations listed on the top of the passport power ranking list have experienced any major civil or political unrest in recent memory. This is reflected in the number of countries that their citizens can travel to without requiring a visa. Again, they are seen to be more likely to adhere to entry requirements and ultimately return home. A look at the bottom of this list shows just how much of an impact instability at home can have on citizens' freedom to travel, with Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Somalia, and Syria all having the most issues with visa-restricted travel. Number of visitors. Another important factor which determines the strength of a passport is the number of visitors that can come into a country. Highly visited countries have some of the strongest passports. Countries like the UAE, Singapore, Seychelles, and Mauritius are small countries, but due to the fact that these countries received a large number of visitors per year, it tends to give its citizens travel freedom to many other countries. If a country is attracting a lot of visitors, there must be something spectacular about that country as a result, and thus, such countries are considered highly valuable, hence a powerful passport. The reverse is true for least visited countries. In conclusion, For a country to improve the strength of its passport, it should improve on the factors explained in this video. The more developed, economically and politically stable a country is, the stronger its passport will be. There you have it, explorers. At least now you know and you have an idea on why some passports are more powerful than others. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any particular questions you want us to answer, leave a comment below and we will do well to give you an answer. Also, if you did enjoy this video, do well to give it a thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe and share with your friends.